What is your earliest personal memory? Was it playing with toys as a child, or perhaps going for a walk with your parents on a sled? Or maybe it was the excitement of Santa Claus, who seemed truly magical at that time. Do you ever wish to forget certain memories? But be cautious about your desires, as they may eventually be fulfilled. In this article, we will share the heartbreaking tales of exceptionally extraordinary individuals who have experienced memory loss, those who remember every single moment of their lives, and even those who recollect events that never actually occurred. And why does this scenario no longer appear fantastical?
Don't even worry about it.
Where do you believe our memories are situated? Prior to the 1950s, the prevailing belief was that visual, verbal, and other forms of memory were developed in distinct regions of the cerebral cortex. However, everything changed when neurosurgeon Dr. William Scoville embarked on a daring operation that unraveled the enigma of memory formation and drastically altered the life of one patient. Henry Molaison woke up in the hospital with no recollection of how he arrived there, unable to recognize any of the medical personnel. Upon glancing at the mirror, Henry beheld the reflection of an elderly man, despite being only 27 years old. Henry found himself trapped in the past. Before undergoing surgery, he had been afflicted by progressive epilepsy. In an effort to alleviate his condition, William made the bold decision to remove Henry's hippocampus from both sides simultaneously, thereby disregarding the fundamental principle of neurosurgery: never remove anything from both sides at once. While the epilepsy did become more manageable, Henry paid a steep price as he lost the ability to recall the events of his life entirely. Henry's ability to hold a thought was limited to 20 seconds before he was interrupted by distractions, forcing the cycle to resume. So he struggled to remember simple details such as his breakfast or the fate of his parents. He also found that he was surrounded by strangers dressed in robes, which made him perplexed about their identities. Nevertheless, despite these difficulties, Henry retained his personality and wit. His IQ was 110. His sense of humor remained intact, and his logical thinking skills were preserved. Only his memory was affected. He even learned to play the piano and solve puzzles. Every day, he solved the same crossword puzzle, mistaking it for a new one. Remarkably, Henry lived to the age of 82, always believing himself to be 27. Although Henry's circumstances were unfortunate, his case played a crucial role in the development of scientific ideas about memory localization. It became clear that the hippocampus plays a crucial role in the functioning of memory, since it is the only region of the brain capable of generating new neurons. The hippocampus serves as a place where our memories are created and stored, much like a hard drive. Henry's crucial contributions have enabled scientists to make numerous breakthroughs in the understanding of memory. He became the most extensively studied patient in the history of medicine and spent the rest of his life surrounded by doctors and researchers. Remarkably, even 4 decades later, when asked about his time in the hospital, he answered without recollection. When Henry passed away in 2008, headlines around the world said, "The man with no memory died." Even after his death, however, the scientific study of Henry's brain continued. His brain was meticulously dissected into some 2,000 thin slices, which were later digitized. It has now become the most famous brain specimen in the history of medicine and serves as a center of study in the field of anatomy and neuroscience. Our memories shape our identity. If you were to find yourself stranded on a deserted island after a shipwreck, suffering from memory loss to the extent of not even remembering your own name, what would remain of your true self? Would it still be you or someone else entirely? The significance of memory often becomes apparent to those who have begun to lose it. Unfortunately, a person without memory cannot lead a fulfilling life. On the other hand, possessing a good memory is a natural gift. Many individuals strive to enhance their memory through various exercises and techniques, unaware that there once existed a person with near-perfect memory who faced significant challenges. Solomon Shirashevsky, a correspondent for a Moscow newspaper, had the most remarkable memory in the world. He had an extraordinary ability to memorize vast amounts of seemingly meaningless information. Remarkably, he could retell the entire Divine Comedy, even though he did not understand the Italian language. Solomon's earliest memory dates back to the age of 6 months. He remembered his mother as something warm and fuzzy, but pleasant. Thus, he remembered events even at a time when his visual cortex had not yet fully developed. What made Solomon's memory even more unique was his synesthesia, a condition in which the senses intertwined and overlapped. For him, sounds were associated with colors, colors were associated with tastes, and tastes could evoke auditory sensations. Despite Solomon Shereshevsky's exceptional talent and extraordinary abilities, he faced significant challenges that hindered his success. The sheer volume of information he retained posed difficulties for him. As a result, he struggled to recognize specific individuals because he perceived their voices as constantly changing, which made it challenging to identify them consistently. Additionally, Solomon developed unique coping mechanisms to deal with daily tasks, such as wrapping a handkerchief around a spoon while stirring tea. Sounds triggered a stream of numbers and symbols in Solomon Shereshevsky's mind. Noise during meals eclipsed his ability to taste food, and the sound of the violin could change his perception of flavors, making them more salty. The overwhelming abundance of mental images became a lifelong burden on him. The most serious problem he faced, however, was the inability to forget. Solomon tirelessly sought ways to intentionally forget certain information, but all his attempts proved futile. But no one operated on Solomon Shereshevsky's brain. Solomon Shereshevsky, although buried as an ordinary man, made a lasting impact through the work of his psychologist, Alexander Luria. Luria's studies on Shereshevsky shed light on the workings of our memory. It was revealed that the brain does not store information in a linear fashion, like a tape recorder, but rather assembles memories like a construction set, drawing upon various regions responsible for hearing, seeing, smelling, and other sensory experiences. Every time we recall something, the brain orchestrates a collaborative effort between these different areas, piecing together memories from the available fragments. Each act of recall involves a process of memory reconstruction, which can lead to altered and distorted memories. When retrieving information, our brains tend to favor facts that are more readily available or emotionally meaningful, rather than relying on absolute certainty. This can cause memories to be overwritten or altered over time. One intriguing case was described by Wilder Penfield, who made the first brain map. During a surgical procedure, Penfield accidentally touched a certain area of the patient's cerebral cortex with an electrode. As a result, the patient heard her mother's voice calling her at the sawmill. In reality, however, the patient was in the hospital having brain surgery. Brain surgeries are performed without anesthesia, and patients remain fully conscious during the operation. To ensure the safety of critical brain areas, doctors may ask patients to engage in specific tasks, such as playing musical instruments, which helps them identify any potential risks. While it may initially seem unsurprising for the woman in the case mentioned to recall a particular incident from her life, the remarkable aspect lies in the fact that she had never actually been to the sawmill. Moreover, she is not familiar with the appearance of the sawmill, but just 2 minutes earlier, the doctor performing her brain surgery had mentioned that he was being supplied with lumber. Our brains have a limited tolerance for uncertainty and tend to maintain the illusion of a consistent and stable reality. In situations where information is lacking, our brains instinctively try to fill in the gaps, often generating explanations that seem logical to us. Consequently, stories can be embellished, leading to differences in the different stories, but the meaning is the same. The real problems arise when our memories are used as evidence in the courtroom, as in the iconic movie 12 Angry Men. This phenomenon is commonly referred to as the witness effect, and it can have devastating consequences. One particularly tragic case involves Steve Titus, who was wrongfully accused of rape. The victim confidently identified him as her attacker, making direct eye contact during the identification process. Steve endured 4 years of imprisonment until the true perpetrator, A sociopath named Edward Lee King, who had assaulted 55 women, was eventually apprehended. Despite the eventual exoneration, Steve's life was irreparably shattered, and the immense stress he experienced ultimately led to a fatal heart attack. At the young age of 35, Steve's entire life was tragically derailed due to the false memories of one individual. Regrettably, there are countless individuals like Steve who are currently facing similar situations worldwide. The advent of DNA testing has revealed alarming statistics, indicating that approximately 300 individuals in the United States alone who were imprisoned on rape charges were later proven innocent. Thinking about it, the next question arises. If none of us can remember exactly what really happened, and we are all wrong, is it possible to manipulate the situation? Elizabeth Loftus has devoted her career to this very concept. She is known for her experience in manipulating memories, successfully convincing her subjects to believe that eggs, cucumbers, and strawberry ice cream caused their childhood illnesses. As a result of these fabricated traumatic memories, they developed an aversion to these foods and began to consume more of their alleged childhood favorite asparagus instead. What if we could control people's actions by implanting false memories? Like the concept shown in the movie Inception, the human brain, with its intricate nature, is a tangible entity composed of physical matter. Within its structure, every thought, experience, and memory of an individual is stored, encoded within billions of cells and their interconnections. Consequently, it is plausible that a memory can be overwritten or physically eradicated, provided the appropriate tools are discovered. This process entails two fundamental steps: identifying the neurons accountable for a specific memory and disrupting the connections between them. At first glance, this may appear to be a straightforward undertaking. However, in reality, locating specific neurons within the brain is akin to searching for a needle, not merely in a haystack, but rather across an entire neighborhood during the dark of night. The task is undeniably complex, primarily due to the fact that memories and emotions are not confined to any specific region. Instead, they are dispersed throughout the brain. Thankfully, the brain offers us a hint in this regard. When a memory is formed, particular cells in the hippocampus become activated. In the given example, the green cells represent the mouse's fearful recollection of being subjected to an electric shock. This visibility is comparable to observing illuminated windows in a house, allowing us to infer that people inside are engaged in activities rather than sleeping. Similarly, by integrating the membranes of these cells into seemingly responsive channels and manipulating them with laser pulses, we can induce fear and freezing responses in the mouse, even in the absence of any genuinely alarming stimuli. Consequently, this technique enables not only the reactivation of past memories, but also the potential for editing them. Scientists conducted an experiment where they identified the neurons associated with the mouse's memory of the blue box. They then transferred the mouse to the red box and stimulated the memory of the blue box, while simultaneously delivering a mild electric shock, inducing fear in the mouse. Subsequently, when the mouse was returned to the blue box, it exhibited fear because it recalled the electric shock, despite the fact that it was actually administered in the red box. False memories work, but the interesting thing is that they also work in reverse, disabling certain memories. It used to seem fantastic. However, this idea is becoming increasingly feasible. Imagine a future in which it becomes possible to erase the most unpleasant memories of an ex-partner, as in the movie Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Alternatively, imagine being able to create entirely new memories for yourself, reminiscent of the movie Total Recall. Over time, these ideas cease to seem far-fetched and fantastical. Now it becomes necessary to contemplate the ethics involved in altering another person's memories and question its purpose. Soon, we might find ourselves in a struggle to protect our memories. Much like we fiercely fight to safeguard our identities, we strive to keep them secure, for we are deeply afraid of losing the essence of who we are, while our online personal data represents our digital identity. Our memories encompass everything else that defines us in the physical world, forming the core of our self-perception, or at least what we believe it to be. Be yourself and get your brains pumped. Bye.